Michael Thomas? You're genuinely interested in Michael Thomas? You do realize the last time Michael Thomas was any good, I genuinely thought that Gardner Minshew was going to be the franchise quarterback for the Jaguars. Welcome everybody to JJ9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Garunai, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about this team behind me right here, the Baltimore Ravens, the reigning number one seed in the AFC, who lost in the AFC Championship, and they badly need help at the wide receiver position. They only really have three receivers on the roster right now, with Zay Flowers, who's obviously amazing, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar. Yes, they do have Tylan Wallace. He's technically the fourth, but he's had 7 catches in 3 seasons. Hasn't done anything outside of that 1 punt return. He's a free agent after the 2024 season. Less than $200,000 in dead cap if they cut him. Either way, the Ravens really have 3 legitimate wide receivers on their team. They have 4 wide receivers on the roster. They're probably going to draft a wide receiver or 2 regardless, especially with Bateman being a free agent. But there is talk about what the Ravens are going to do in free agency at the wide receiver position, because according to reports, they are not bringing back Odell Beckham Jr. Beckham had 35 catches for $565 last year. It was a 1-year prove-it deal, an expensive 1-year prove-it deal, but a 1-year deal nonetheless. He will not be coming back. We'll see where he winds up in 2024, but odds are it will not be with Baltimore. So who will the Ravens get in free agency at wide receiver? Well, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, they are really high and could be linked to New Orleans Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas. Now, obviously, Thomas in his prime was a phenomenal player, made 3 straight Pro Bowls with the Saints from 2017 to 2019. He was the Offensive Player of the Year in 2019, 2-time EP First Team All-Pro in 2018 and 2019. Over those 3 seasons from 2017 to 19, there were very few receivers in football better than he was. In 2019, he led the NFL with 149 catches and 1,725 yards. The 149 catches remains to this day an NFL record for the most receptions in a single season, and he did that in a 16-game season, not a 17-game season, so very impressive stuff. Having said that, though, ever since 2019, it has been nothing but downhill for Michael Thomas. Injuries galore over the last 4 seasons. You had a high ankle sprain in 2020, a hamstring injury in 2020, a high ankle sprain again in 2020, and in 2021, kept him out all of 2021 due to issues with his rehab, had a hamstring injury in 2022 that kept him out, a pedal toe dislocation in 2022 that kept him out, and this past season, a knee injury that kept him out for much of the second half of the season. In his last 54 possible regular season games, Michael Thomas has played in 13 of them. Thomas has played in 13 of the last 54 regular season games for the Saints. That is 24%. That is less than 1 out of every 4 games he is playing in. The best ability is availability. And Michael Thomas has no ability in that regard because he is never available. His last 66 possible regular season games, he's played in 19 of them. 28%. That's it. He hasn't gone over 100 receiving yards since December 6, 2020. That was so long ago that COVID was in its peak, and was so long ago that the Baltimore Ravens, the team in question, were having a game postponed against the Pittsburgh Steelers being played on a Wednesday afternoon due to a tree lighting at Rockefeller Center. Yes, that is a real thing. Michael Thomas has not played a regular season game past Thanksgiving since 2020. He's on the wrong side of 30, so he's past the prime of his career, and obviously with the injuries, he's only going to get worse. And in his last 4 seasons, he's averaging across those years 23 receptions and 264 yards a year. Again, this is a far cry from the guy that led the NFL in receptions and receiving yards in 2019. This is a guy that, quite frankly, cannot stay on the field. Why the Ravens would target him in free agency when you badly need a wide receiver, I am really not sure, because you're still going to need a wide receiver when he inevitably winds up on IR. Now, I totally get not wanting to re-sign Odell Beckham Jr. Believe me, I totally get it. But there are better avenues to take to get a veteran wideout that won't cost a ton of cap space and will actually stay healthy, because Michael Thomas is probably going to come out a few million a year. He's not signing on the vet minimum. If he was signing on the vet minimum, different story. But obviously that's not going to be the case. Look at a guy like DJ Chark. He made $5 million on his contract last year. Probably going to make around the same this year. Played with the Carolina Panthers last year. Former Jaguars receiver, former Lion for a year. Almost identical numbers to what Odell Beckham put up last year. Chark had 35 catches for 525 yards. Beckham had 35 catches for 565, so identical catches and just 40 yards off in receiving. Yes, Chark has somewhat of an injury history dating back to 2021 when he got hurt during that Thursday night football game against the Cincinnati Bengals, but at least he has a chance of playing past the month of November. I just don't get why the Ravens would be linked with Michael Thomas and why this is a move that would make a lot of sense. Now, granted, I know that John Harbaugh is very high on Michael Thomas. He's been high on Thomas for a while. Back in 2018, I know that was a long time ago, but Harbaugh was extremely high on Michael Thomas when he said, he's a guy who personally I really, really liked coming out of college. I had him rated very highly. Glad to see I was right. He's proven a lot of people right, and he's one of the top receivers in football right now. Again, that was back in 2018. The world was a lot different in 2018, mainly the fact that Michael Thomas could actually stay healthy. It just doesn't make sense, though, why they would look at Michael Thomas when you need receivers, and he doesn't really change anything because he's just going to wind up getting hurt if history is anything to go off of. Now, he could theoretically play 17 games in a season. He could theoretically play 16. I don't see it happening. He's played in 13 of the last 54 regular season games. I could see a situation where he plays 5 games and gets hurt again. The Ravens are a team that's thinking about the postseason. They're a team that's thinking about making a deep run in January, making it to the Super Bowl for the first time since the 2012 season. That's really been the struggle. It's not getting to the postseason. It's getting far in the postseason, getting over the hump. I don't see how Michael Thomas changes that because he's probably not going to be available for the postseason because of his injury history since he hasn't played a regular season game past Thanksgiving in 4 years. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense why the Ravens would be linked with Michael Thomas. Obviously, they need receivers. Again, Flowers, Bateman, Aguilar, you need more guys. You need to get 2 more receivers on this team, at least 1 more. I just don't see how Michael Thomas changes anything in terms of what the end goal for the Ravens is. But what are your thoughts on Michael Thomas? Do you think he still has anything left in the tank? Do you think the Ravens should sign him? Do you think the Ravens will sign him? Where do you think Michael Thomas will wind up for the 2024 season? Keeping in mind that he is still under contract with the Saints, but his contract is set to void, and it doesn't look like the Saints are bringing him back by any means. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's going to do for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JaguarGator9 signing off, and as always, go Jags.